Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the dreaded C word, cancer. Geez, it's been 8 years ago. I was diagnosed with carcinoid cancer. Carcinoid is an endocrine tumor cancer. It's a slow-growing cancer. It attacks the endocrine system and the intestines. A lot of times it's found on the ileum, but I've had friends who've even had it on their somebody had it on their kidney, which was a weird place. There's been pancreatitis. What's his name? Steve Jobs had a form of carcinoid or endocrine tumor cancer. I was diagnosed in June 2006, only after I had been misdiagnosed with stress. They told me I had a bleeding ulcer and that if I would just get my life together, get a handle on my crazy teenage kids, that things would be so much better. And they told this behind my back to my husband, which then thought I was just a nut job because I was not getting my life together, and if all these symptoms I was having was basically psychosomatic, and basically he thought I was being a big baby. In the meantime, I was bleeding out. Lost half my blood. My blood level was, I think, 6.75 at one point. I ran a little kiosk at one of the local malls and got a call from the doctor and said, "How you feeling?" I said, "I guess I'm okay." She says, "How'd you get there?" I said, "I drove." She says, "Can you drive yourself to the hospital?" I'm like, "Why?" She says, "Well, your blood level's at 6.75 and we need to get some blood in you." So I packed, closed everything up, and ran over and got a transfusion. They then sent me to another doctor. Totally freaked me out as I walk into this doctor's office, only to find magazines of these poor women with no hair and selling wigs, and then I'm seeing all these cancer things on the table. I didn't know it was a cancer doctor. Really kind of scared me. And that doctor did not diagnose. Instead, they just gave me saline for several weeks, thinking, again, most of it was in my head. Didn't test me, didn't do any tests, didn't really look at me. Oh, shame on that doctor. Well, anyway, I kept feeling terrible, 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 and I called my mom just one day, just in tears, and she says, "That's it, pack up your stuff, and I'll meet you at your house, and we're going to go to Mayo." So we went to Mayo. Mayo Clinic within 3 days diagnosed me with carcinoid cancer. At that point, my mom and I were so frustrated because I had not been diagnosed yet. I was so sick. We did a high five. Now I look back at it, the ridiculous of like, "Yeah, you got cancer, high five, you know?" But I was so sick, and everybody was telling me I was crazy. A couple months later, August, we go in for surgery, and again, like I said, they removed 22 tumors, 11 in my liver, and 11 throughout my intestines. They had to take out my gallbladder to get to my liver. They took out 12 inches of my intestines, and then they took out hundreds of scraped, like little bitty sand tumors all throughout my stomach and the fatty layer tissue that's over your stomach. Really, really, really tough surgery. But I pulled through okay. And every month I get a shot. It's called sandostatin. And it kind of helps the tumors not grow as fast. It also controls the symptoms. This cancer actually has symptoms. One of the symptoms is flushing. That was one of the first signs. First sign was I'd have a glass of red wine, and I swear it felt like I was having a freaking heart attack. My heart would be like this. My face would turn red. It felt like all the blood was ready just to pop out of my head. I remember my last glass of red wine ever. Because I'd go lay down and I really thought I was going to die. Then it began McDonald's hamburgers, peanut butter sandwiches, same effect. Then I started having diarrhea. Anything I ate just went straight through me. Yeah, it was just one terrible thing after the other. I used to call myself Honky Woman because I couldn't get a tan. I didn't know it was because of lack of blood. I mean, I had a bleeding tumor and I was bleeding out. Well, you'd think a doctor would have looked at me and said, "Your blood color is not right, something's wrong," but nobody did this. So, I mean, I had a couple years of really struggling to get through with this, through all this. It's been 8 years now, and I'm doing quite well. I still have 5 tumors on my liver, but each day's a challenge. Each day I wake up and I say, okay, what difference can I make in my family's life, my husband's life, people I meet's life? Or some days I wake up and think, how in the world am I going to just make it through the day? It can be really tough. I just got done, was it a week and a half ago? I had a 7-day migraine. Yay. I had so many plans that week, and instead I ended up laying in bed or on the floor because my back hurts from the surgery really bad. Going to physical therapy now. Hopefully that'll help strengthen some of the muscles because they literally cut me open. I've got a Mercedes-Benz sign across my stomach. Um, it's been a tough ride, but I've made it through, and I've made it through by the grace of God. I can tell you a little story talking about the grace of God. On August 3rd, I had surgery, and it was 2006, where they removed the 22 tumors. I did pretty good the first week, and so they said, okay, I think you're well enough. It's been a week. You can go home, but go home to the hotel and make sure, because we lived about 5 hours away from the hospital. I went to Mayo Clinic. And so we waited that night at the hotel room. And I remember feeling terrible, thinking, oh, this is not good. If I feel this bad, I don't want to go home. And my husband, God bless him, he thought, we're scot-free. Yay, I get to take her home. Life is good. So he took a sleeping pill. Thank God my mom was there. And I said, Mom, I don't feel good. Will you please just read to me something out of the Bible? Just read to me. So she started reading to me. And I felt sick. And sure enough, I started passing blood. And that's not good. So we went back to the hospital, and they told Mom, they said, your daughter's very sick. You need to go over here, get some rest. Let us take her, and let's go figure out what's wrong with her. We'll meet back here at the room. Mom slept in my hospital room while they were testing me. I remember looking up at my mom saying, please don't let me die here. Please don't let me die here, Mommy. And I can't imagine the stress I put on her when I did that. But I was so scared. But off I went, and they did all kinds of tests. My husband was finally woken up from that crazy sleeping pill and brought into the hospital room where they were prepping me to go for surgery so they could figure out how to stop the bleeding, because literally I was bleeding out. And got a knock on the door. Well, what happened prior to this, I guess I should say, is there was a little nurse, and she was just carrying bedpans of blood. Bedpans of blood. They would put blood in, blood come out. And she spilt one of the bedpans of blood all over the floor. Well, she freaked out. She was a newer nurse. And the head nurse came in, kind of grabbed her and said, you've got to get a hold of yourself. You know what? Go home, get yourself together. This is unprofessional. You cannot behave this way in this kind of situation. So she sent that nurse home. Well, in the meantime, we get a knock on our door, and my husband asked who it was, and this lady was there and said, I heard there was a sick woman here who needed prayer. My husband says, well, if you believe in God and Jesus, come on in. We sure could use prayer. So she came in, and she laid 3 crosses on my chest. And I vaguely remember this, but she laid 3 crosses on my chest, and she prayed for me. Well, right as she got done praying, the head nurse came back in and took one look at this woman and said, who are you? You're not a member of the family. Wait a second, not only one person is supposed to be in here. You need to leave, and you need to leave now. And then she whipped around and she goes, what is that smell? What did you spray in here? And that poor woman's like, whoa, I didn't spray anything. And then she kind of smiled. She goes, maybe it's the Holy Spirit. We were praying. And she left. Well, they wheeled me down into the operating room with my husband dragging behind him as he's trying to sign the papers. If your wife dies, you can't hold us accountable type thing. And then they send him out of the operating room, and they're getting me prepped. And I guess as they're putting me under, they know further, that was it. This bleeding completely stopped. They never had to do surgery, never had to do anything. They don't know where the bleeding came from, but wherever it came from, it immediately stopped. They wheeled me right back. My husband's like, what happened? I was in there maybe 5 or 10 minutes. My husband asked, well, what happened? And they're going, she stopped bleeding. We don't know. We can't find out where it's, there's, you know, I guess they did a scope, an endoscopy scope. They said, we don't see anything. There's no sign of bleeding. She's fine. So that was kind of cool. And I'm, you know, doing the recovery thing again. And the next day, that lady who came in and prayed for me came back to my room. And I was like, oh, I thought you were an angel. And she says, no, I'm not an angel. And I said, no, 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 you were an angel because you were obedient, because we needed prayer. And she says, well, actually, I was coming to pray. There's a nun across the room. I was going to come pray for her. And she said, and I decided to, you know, some lady, one of the nurses said there was a sick woman in this room. Could I pray for you too? So I decided to come in and pray for you too. And I said, well, I'm sure grateful that you did. And I got her information and everything. And then she left. And when I got ready to leave in a couple days, I went to go get the lady's information and put it with all my stuff, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I went back out because I was walking around at this point. I went out to the hall and asked one of the nurses, had they seen, you know, that lady that came into my room, and nobody knew what I was talking about. And I said, well, what about that nun? Where's the nun's room? And they all gave me this look like I had a third eye in my head or something. What nun? And I'm like, the nun that's in this hallway. And then she's like, there's no nun. And I made them check, and there was no nun anywhere on the floor. So, you know, did I have an angel? I don't know. Maybe God sent an angel to my room. Either way, obedient servant or an angel, I was healed because of that. And God saved me. And for whatever reason, here I be. Yep, 8 years later, struggling along, but I am here. Carcinoid cancer is a slow killer. Those of you who are curious, www.carcinoid.org is a great site. You know, the more we can educate people, the more people that might get saved and might not have to go through all the craziness that I went through. Anyway, that's my story. I hope y'all have a blessed afternoon, blessed evening, and I'll be talking at you later. Have a good night.